Commander Jiho Kim woke up with a pounding headache. Her vision was blurry as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. Cold metal walls surrounded her. This was not her ship. This was not even a human-made room. "Where am I?" she whispered, her throat dry and painful. She tried to sit up but found her hands bound to the hard surface she was lying on. The air smelled strange, like burning metal and something sweet that made her feel sick. The last thing Jiho remembered was being on the bridge of her ship, the EDF Horizon. They had been on a peaceful mission to the Kora sector. Then, without warning, 3 unknown ships appeared on their scanners. Before they could even send a message, the attackers fired some kind of energy weapon. After that, everything went black. A door slid open with a hiss. Jiho turned her head to see who was coming. She had to blink several times to make sure she wasn't seeing things. The creature that entered was tall and thin with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the bright lights. It had 4 arms and walked on 2 legs that bent backward. At the knee, its head was narrow with 3 black eyes arranged in a triangle. It had no visible mouth, but there was a small slit where a nose might be on a human face. "Veraki," Jiho whispered. She had seen pictures during her training, but never in person. The Veraki were known for their advanced technology and aggressive expansion through this part of space. They avoided direct conflict with humans so far, but there had been rumors of ships going missing near their territory. The alien approached her table and studied her with its 3 unblinking eyes. Another Veraki entered, carrying what looked like a medical scanner of some kind. "Subject is conscious," said the second Veraki in a flat, mechanical voice. It was speaking through some kind of translator. "Vital signs stable. Proceed with examination," said the first one. Jiho tried to speak. "I am Commander Jiho Kim of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have attacked a peaceful vessel and taken prisoners. This is an act of war." The Veraki ignored her words and continued their examination, taking samples of her blood and scanning her body with strange devices. "Let me go," Jiho demanded, trying to sound strong despite her fear. "Where are my crew members?" At the mention of her crew, one of the Veraki paused and made a clicking sound that the translator didn't convert. "The other humans are being processed separately," it finally said. "Your species shows unusual resistance to standard containment measures. Most interesting." The door opened again, and a third Veraki entered. This one wore some kind of ornate covering over its upper body, suggesting higher rank. "Is this the commander?" it asked. "Yes, Chief Scientist," replied one of the others. The Chief Scientist approached Jiho's table. "Your vessel entered restricted space. You will provide information about Earth's defense capabilities." Jiho shook her head. "We were on a diplomatic mission in neutral territory. You attacked us without warning. Neutral according to your maps, perhaps," said the Chief Scientist. "The Kora sector belongs to the Veraki hierarchy. Your presence there was an invasion." Jiho managed to turn her head enough to see beyond the aliens. Through the doorway, she could make out what looked like more holding cells. In one, she spotted her communications officer, Hyun Kim, lying unconscious on a similar table. In another cell, she could just barely see her security chief, Taewoo Park, also restrained and not moving. "What have you done to them?" Jiho asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Standard examination procedures," replied the Chief Scientist. "They have not shown your resilience, particularly interesting given your similar genetic structures." One of the other Veraki approached with a clear container holding a glowing purple liquid. "What is that?" Jiho asked, unable to hide the fear in her voice now. "A simple compound that helps subjects become more cooperative," said the Chief Scientist. "Your crew members received a similar dosage but have not responded as expected. Their systems appear to be shutting down." Jiho's heart raced. "They're dying. Stop whatever you're doing to them." "Science requires sacrifice," the Chief Scientist said flatly. "But you need not worry about them now. You should be concerned with your own response to our methods." The second Veraki moved to Jiho's side and positioned a device near her mouth. "You will drink this," the Chief Scientist instructed. "Then you will answer our questions about Earth's defenses, fleet movements, and colony locations." Jiho pressed her lips together and turned her head away. Resistance is pointless, said the chief scientist. This compound has never failed to break the will of any species we have studied. It causes a pain beyond what most minds can tolerate. When Jiho still refused to open her mouth, the Viraki pressed a button on her restraints that sent a shock through her body. As she gasped in pain, they poured the purple liquid into her mouth. The taste was bitter and metallic. Jiho tried to spit it out, but one of the Viraki covered her mouth and nose, forcing her to swallow or suffocate. The effect was almost immediate. A burning sensation spread from her throat to her chest, then to her entire body. It felt like her blood was on fire. Jiho clenched her teeth to stop herself from screaming. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. The Viraki watched her with clinical interest, recording her reactions with their strange devices. Interesting, said the chief scientist. Most subjects begin begging for relief by now. What the aliens didn't know was that Jiho had a rare genetic mutation. It was one reason she had been selected for deep space missions. Her body processed toxins differently than most humans, but even she could feel that this substance was powerful, more powerful than anything she had encountered before. The burning sensation began to change. Instead of pain, Jiho felt an overwhelming tiredness washing over her. Her eyelids grew heavy and her thoughts became foggy. The chief scientist leaned closer, studying her reactions. The subject shows unusual resistance, increased scanner sensitivity. Jiho felt her muscles relaxing against her will. Whatever they had given her wasn't causing pain as they expected. It was making her incredibly sleepy. "Your poison?" Jiho managed to say, her words slurring slightly. "Doesn't work the way you think." "Explain," demanded the chief scientist. Jiho felt a strange smile form on her lips. Something was happening inside her body, something beyond just sleep. She could feel changes occurring at a cellular level, though she didn't understand them. "I just need," she whispered, her eyes closing, "a nap." As the confused Viraki scientists rushed to check their readings and understand why their toxin wasn't working as expected, Jiho Kim fell into a deep sleep. Her body went limp on the examination table, but her vital signs remained strong. The last thing she heard before consciousness faded completely was the chief scientist saying, "Alert the hierarchy. This human shows adaptability beyond our models. This could change our invasion plans." Then darkness took her and the real changes began. Jiho floated in darkness. Though her body lay still on the cold metal table in the Viraki lab, her mind was active. She dreamed of strange colors and shapes she had never seen before. In her dream, she could see inside her own body, down to her cells, where something remarkable was happening. The purple poison wasn't killing her cells. It was changing them. Meanwhile, the Viraki scientists watched with growing concern. It had been 6 hours since they gave her the toxin, and Commander Jiho Kim still lived. More than that, her body showed no signs of breaking down. "This defies all previous test results," said the chief scientist to a newly arrived Viraki officer. This one wore a black covering with silver markings that showed high military rank. The toxin should have caused extreme pain followed by mental collapse. Instead, she sleeps. "Could your scientists have made an error in the dosage?" asked the military officer, whose name was Dreth. "No error," replied the chief scientist. "We gave her the same amount we gave the other humans. Look at them." On a screen nearby, Hyun Kim and Taewoo Park could be seen in their cells. Both were awake but clearly suffering. Hyun shook with fever, while Taewoo seemed unable to move his limbs. "Why is this one different?" asked Dreth, looking at Jiho's peaceful sleeping face. "Unknown. We are running tests on her blood samples. Her genetic structure shows unusual patterns we have not seen in other humans." Dreth moved closer to Jiho's table. "The hierarchy is most interested in this mission. If humans can resist our standard methods, it complicates our invasion plans. The other humans show no such resistance," said the chief scientist. "Perhaps this one is a genetic outlier, a rare mutation." "Or perhaps," said Dreth, "the humans have been developing biological defenses against us. They may know more about us than we thought." Inside Jiho's mind, strange things were happening. The poison that should have broken her was being absorbed by her body. It was as if her cells were learning from the toxin, taking it apart and using its components. In her dreams, Jiho saw memories of her military training mixed with new knowledge she couldn't explain. She saw the structure of the Viraki ship. She understood parts of their language. Somehow, the toxin was connecting her to knowledge she shouldn't have. 12 hours passed. The Viraki continued their tests and discussions, growing more concerned as time went on. They sent reports to their fleet commanders about this unexpected development. Then, Jiho's eyes opened. "Subject is awake," announced a monitoring device. The chief scientist and Dreth rushed to her cell. They expected to find her weak, confused, or brain damaged. Instead, Jiho was sitting up on the table, her restraints still in place but her eyes clear and alert. "How is this possible?" whispered the chief scientist. "The toxin concentration in her blood is still high." Jiho looked directly at them. Something had changed in her eyes. There was a faint purple glow in them now. "I told you I just needed a nap," she said calmly. The Viraki were startled by her clear speech and calm demeanor. "The toxin should have destroyed your nervous system," said the chief scientist through the translator. "How do you feel?" Jiho took a moment before answering. She was taking stock of her body, sensing something different. Her muscles felt stronger, her mind felt sharper, and strangest of all, she could understand the clicking sounds the Viraki made before they were translated. "I feel improved," she said finally. Dreth stepped forward. "What is your name and rank?" he asked, testing her mental state. "Commander, Jiho Kim, Earth Defense Fleet," she replied. Then, without using the translator, she added in the Viraki language, "And you are Officer Dreth of the invasion force." The Viraki stepped back in shock. "How do you know our language?" Dreth demanded. Jiho was as surprised as they were. The words had come to her naturally, as if she had always known them. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's like the knowledge is just there in my head now." The chief scientist turned to Dreth. "This changes everything. We must report this to the hierarchy immediately. If humans can adapt to our methods this quickly—" "It may only be this one," said Dreth. "The others show no such abilities." Jiho looked toward the door, thinking of her crew members. "What have you done to Hyun and Tae-woo? I want to see them." "You are in no position to make demands," said Dreth. "You will remain here while we conduct further tests." A Viraki guard approached with another container of the purple liquid. "The subject should receive another dose for continued observation," he said. Jiho felt no fear this time. Something told her the toxin couldn't hurt her now. In fact, she sensed that her body wanted more of it, that it could use the strange substance. As the guard came closer, Jiho noticed something else new. She could see the guard's movements before he made them, as if her brain was processing information faster than normal. When the guard reached for her arm to give her the toxin, Jiho moved with surprising speed. Her hand slipped out of the restraint, which should have been impossible, and caught the guard's wrist. "How did you break free?" gasped the chief scientist. Jiho looked at her own hand in wonder. She hadn't planned to escape the restraint. It was as if her body had simply known how to change its shape slightly to slip free. The guard tried to pull away, but Jiho's grip was strong, stronger than she had ever been before. The container of purple liquid fell to the floor but didn't break. Dreth pulled out a weapon, a short rod that glowed with energy. "Restrain yourself, human, or we will be forced to take stronger measures." Jiho slowly released the guard and put her hand back on the table. Not because she was afraid, but because she needed time to understand what was happening to her. Something fundamental had changed in her body, and she needed to learn the limits of these new abilities. "I apologize," she said calmly. "I was surprised." The Viraki backed away, watching her with new caution. They spoke rapidly in their clicking language, not using the translator, but Jiho found she could understand most of what they said. Genetic reconfiguration, adapt to the compound, possibly weaponize this response. Threat level increased. As they spoke, Jiho focused on her other senses. She could hear better now, too. From nearby cells, she could hear the labored breathing of Taiwu and the pained moans of Hyun. They needed help, and soon. The chief scientist approached again, more cautious now. Your genetic structure is responding to our compound in unprecedented ways. We will need to understand this process fully. Jiho nodded slowly. I understand. You want to know if all humans can do this or just me? Precisely, said the chief scientist. If this is a common human trait, it would significantly alter our approach to your species. And what is your approach to my species? Jiho asked, though she already knew the answer from their earlier conversations. Dreth interrupted. That is not your concern. For now, you will submit to further testing. Jiho looked directly at him. And if I refuse? Then your crew members will suffer the consequences, said Dreth coldly. Jiho nodded again, appearing to accept her situation. But inside, her mind was racing with new clarity. The toxin hadn't just failed to hurt her. It had changed her, enhanced her. She could feel her body continuing to adapt, growing stronger by the minute. She would submit to their tests for now. She would learn more about her new abilities, and she would find a way to save her crew and escape this place. As the Viraki prepared their equipment for more tests, Jiho closed her eyes briefly, focusing on the strange new energy flowing through her body. Whatever they had done to her, they would soon learn that poisoning a human wasn't always the wisest choice. Sometimes it just made them stronger. For the next 6 hours, the Viraki ran tests on Jiho. They took more blood samples. They scanned her brain. They tested her reflexes and strength. With each test, they grew more worried. Jiho cooperated, but she was planning her escape. As they moved her between rooms for different tests, she carefully studied the layout of the base. She counted the guards. She noted which doors had extra security. Most importantly, she watched the timing of the guard changes. The Viraki base was bigger than she first thought. Through open doors and windows, she saw that it wasn't just a ship. It was a ground base on some rocky moon or planet. She counted, at least 50 Viraki moving around the facility. This is a forward operating base, she realized. The first step for their invasion. During one test, she was left alone with a young Viraki scientist who seemed less careful than the others. Jiho decided to get information. How long have you been stationed here? She asked in a friendly tone. The Viraki looked surprised at the casual question, but answered, This base has been operational for 27 cycles. I have been here for 8. And the invasion fleet? How large is it? Jiho asked, making it sound like she was just curious. The young scientist hesitated. I should not discuss such matters with a test subject. Of course, Jiho said with a smile. I was just making conversation. It must be boring being so far from your homeworld. The scientist seemed to relax a little. The first wave has 12 battleships. They wait at the edge of this system for our signal. Jiho kept her expression neutral, but inside her mind raced. 12 battleships could destroy Earth's outer colonies before help could arrive. She needed to warn her people. Later, they took her to see her crew members. Hyun was conscious but very weak. Her skin had a grayish color, and she could barely speak. Commander, Hyun whispered when she saw Jiho. What's happening to us? Stay strong, Jiho told her. I'm going to get us out of here. Taewoo was in worse shape. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow. The Viraki had connected him to some kind of life support machine. The toxin affects each human differently, explained the chief scientist. This one's nervous system is failing. The female shows signs of organ damage, only you have shown adaptation. Jiho felt rage building inside her, but she kept her face calm. Let me help them. Give me access to your medical equipment. Impossible, said Dreth, who had been watching the exchange. You are valuable research subjects, nothing more. As they led her back to her cell, Jiho noticed a change in the guards. The night shift was coming on duty. Fewer guards, more tired. This would be her chance. Back in her cell, Jiho tested her new strength by gently pulling on her restraints. They were strong, but she could feel the metal bending slightly under her grip. She would need to wait for the right moment. That moment came 3 hours later. The base lights dimmed for the night cycle. Most of the scientists had left, leaving only 2 guards watching the cells. Ji-ho closed her eyes and focused on her body. The purple toxin had changed her at a cellular level. She could feel it flowing through her veins, giving her new strength, new abilities. She concentrated on her hands, willing them to change shape just enough to slip out of the restraints. 2. Her amazement. Her wrists narrowed slightly and she easily pulled free from the metal cuffs. She sat up slowly, making no sound. The guards were looking at screens, not at her. Ji-ho moved to the cell door. It had an electronic lock. She remembered how the Viraki had entered a code on a small panel. She placed her hand on the panel and, to her surprise, felt a connection forming. It was as if the toxin in her body could interact with the Viraki technology. The door slid open silently. The guards didn't notice until Ji-ho was already behind them. She moved with incredible speed, grabbing one guard and pressing her hand against his neck. The guard collapsed immediately as if her touch had put him to sleep. The second guard turned, reaching for his weapon, but Ji-ho was faster. She touched his arm and he too fell unconscious. "What is happening to me?" Ji-ho whispered, looking at her hands. Somehow, the toxin had reformed in her body. Now her touch could transfer a sleeping version of the poison to others. She took the guards' weapons, energy batons that hummed with power, and headed for the medical area where her crew was held. The base was quiet at night. Ji-ho moved silently through the hallways, hiding whenever she heard someone coming. When she couldn't avoid a guard, she used her touch to put them to sleep. She reached the medical area and found her crew members still connected to machines. Working quickly, she disconnected them and checked their vital signs. "Hyun, Tai-woo, can you hear me?" she whispered, gently shaking them. Hyun's eyes fluttered open. "Commander, is this real?" "It's real. We're leaving," Ji-ho said. "Can you stand?" Hyun tried, but was too weak. Tae-woo remained unconscious. Ji-ho made a quick decision. "I need to find a safer place for you two first. Then I'll come back with, a plan to get us all out." She found a storage room nearby with medical supplies. She moved her crew members there, hidden behind tall containers. "Stay quiet. I'll be back soon," she told Hyun, who nodded weakly. Ji-ho then began the next phase of her plan. She needed to disable the base's key systems. She found the communication center first. 2 Viraki technicians were monitoring equipment. Ji-ho entered silently and touched both before they could sound an alarm. As they collapsed, she studied the alien technology. The Viraki communication system was complex, but somehow Ji-ho understood how it worked. She disabled the long-range transmitters, cutting the base off from the fleet waiting at the edge of the system. Next, she headed for the power control room. She encountered more guards here, but dealt with them just as easily. Her touch now worked, through their protective clothing. In the power room, Ji-ho didn't shut off the main power. That would trigger alarms. Instead, she reduced power to non-essential systems and redirected power from the weapon systems. As she worked, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the base. Someone had discovered the unconscious guards or noticed the communications failure. "Time for a new plan," Ji-ho muttered. She headed for the main lab where they had first poisoned her. If she could find more of the toxin, maybe she could use it somehow. On the way, she ran into a full squad of Viraki guards led by Officer Dreth. They were prepared this time, wearing sealed suits that covered their skin completely. "Stop where you are, human," Dreth ordered, pointing an energy weapon at her. Ji-ho paused, calculating her options. There were 8 guards, all armed. Even with her new abilities, these odds were bad. "How did you escape your restraints?" demanded Dreth. Ji-ho smiled slightly. "You should have studied humans more carefully before trying to poison one." Dreth fired a warning shot that hit the wall near Ji-ho's head. "Return to your cell, or we will use lethal force." Instead of answering, Ji-ho closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the toxin flowing through her body. When she opened her eyes again, they glowed bright purple. "You should have let me sleep longer," she said. She moved so fast the guards barely saw her. She leapt forward, touching the nearest guard's helmet. To everyone's shock, The guard collapsed. Despite the sealed suit, the other guards opened fire, but Jiho was no longer where they aimed. She moved among them like a shadow, touching each one briefly. One by one, they fell unconscious. Only Dreth remained standing, backing away in fear. "What are you?" he asked. Jiho stepped toward him. "I'm what happens when you underestimate humans." Dreth fired his weapon directly at her chest, but Jiho didn't try to dodge. The energy beam hit her and seemed to be absorbed into her body. The purple glow in her eyes grew brighter. "Thanks for the energy boost," she said, and touched Dreth's helmet. The officer collapsed at her feet. Jiho stood in the middle of the hallway, surrounded by unconscious Viraki. The alarm was still blaring, but now she had a clear path to the lab and to the rest of the base. "Now," she said to herself, "let's see what else this poison can do." Jiho moved quickly through the corridors of the Viraki base. More guards would come soon. She needed to reach the main lab before they could organize a proper defense. The lab doors were locked when she arrived, but that didn't stop her. Jiho placed her hand on the control panel and again felt that strange connection forming between her body and the alien technology. The doors slid open. Inside, she found what she was looking for: containers of the purple toxin lined up on shelves. The chief scientist was there too, frantically downloading data from the computer systems. "Stop," the scientist said when he saw Jiho. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly," Jiho replied. "You were planning to invade my homeworld. This base is your first step." The chief scientist backed away from the computer. "The Viraki hierarchy has claimed this entire sector. Your people are the invaders here." Jiho approached the computer terminal. "Let's see what your research really says." When she touched the terminal, something amazing happened. Data flowed into her mind directly from the machine. She could see the Viraki plans, their research, their ship movements, everything. "You've been studying Earth for years," she said, processing the information rapidly. "This isn't about territory. You fear us because we adapt too quickly." The chief scientist stared at her in shock. "How are you accessing our database? That's impossible for a human." Jiho ignored him and continued reading the data. The Viraki had been watching humans for decades. They had seen how quickly humans developed new technologies, how they survived in harsh environments, how they overcame challenges. The Viraki saw humans as a long-term threat to their dominance in the galaxy. "Your invasion fleet is waiting for your signal," Jiho said. 12 battleships ready to attack our outer colonies. "And they will come when we don't report on schedule," the chief scientist warned. "You cannot stop what is coming." Jiho smiled slightly. "I already disabled your long-range communications. Your fleet won't know anything is wrong until it's too late." She turned her attention to the containers of toxin. According to the data she had accessed, the toxin was designed to attack neural pathways in most species. But in her body, it had bonded with her cells, creating something new. "I need to understand this compound better," she said, half to herself. She picked up one of the containers and studied it. The purple liquid seemed to respond to her touch, swirling faster. "It's alive," she realized. Not a chemical, but a biological agent. The chief scientist watched her nervously. "Put that down. In its concentrated form, it could kill even you." Jiho shook her head. "No, it won't kill me. We're connected now." She opened the container. The chief scientist backed away in fear, but Jiho simply dipped her finger into the liquid. Instead of harming her, the toxin was absorbed through her skin, adding to the power already flowing through her veins. Alarms blared louder as the base went into full lockdown. Jiho could hear many footsteps approaching, reinforcements coming. "To the lab." "You're trapped now," said the chief scientist. "The command-level doors are sealed." Jiho looked at the scientist calmly. "I'm not trapped here with you, you're trapped here with me." The lab doors burst open as Commander Gon, the base's military leader, entered with 20 heavily armed guards. Unlike the previous guards, these wore full battle armor with helmets that completely covered their faces. "Surrender, human," Gon ordered. "There is no escape." Jiho assessed the situation quickly. Too many to fight directly, even with her enhanced abilities. She needed a different approach. "Commander Gon," she said, "I've been reviewing your research data. Did you know your scientists discovered that this toxin could be modified to target specific species?" Gon hesitated, clearly surprised that she knew his name and this information. Jiho continued. "The original formula was designed for humans, but it can be reprogrammed. Like this." In a swift motion, Jiho poured the contents of the toxin container into a nearby air vent. The purple liquid seemed to respond to her will, flowing like it was alive. "What have you done?" demanded Gon. "I've reprogrammed it," Jiho said simply. "Now it targets Viraki physiology instead of human." The chief scientist understood first. "The ventilation system, it will spread throughout the base." Gon realized the danger and ordered his guards, "Seal your suits. Full containment protocol." But Jiho knew something they didn't. The toxin had changed inside her body. It could now pass through their protective materials, just as her touch had affected the guards with sealed suits. One by one, the guards began to sway on their feet. Their weapons clattered to the floor as they collapsed, falling into a deep sleep. Only Gon remained standing, his superior battlesuit providing better protection. "What kind of monster are you?" he asked, raising his weapon. "I'm not the monster. Here," Jiho replied. "You came to our space, you took my crew, you poisoned us. I'm just returning the favor." Gon fired his weapon, but Jiho was ready. She moved with impossible speed, dodging the energy beam. Then she charged forward and touched Gon's suit. Even through the advanced material, the toxin transferred from her hand to the commander. Gon fought against the effect longer than the others had, but eventually, he too collapsed to the floor. Jiho stood in the silent lab, surrounded by sleeping Viraki. Through the base's monitoring systems, she could see the purple mist spreading through the ventilation system. All across the facility, Viraki were falling asleep at their stations. "The toxin won't kill them," Jiho said to herself. "Just like it didn't kill me. They'll wake up in a few hours with temporary paralysis. That should give me enough time." She returned to the computer terminal and began downloading all the Viraki data. Their invasion plans, fleet positions, weapons technology, everything. Earth would need to defend itself. As she worked, Jiho thought about what had happened to her. The poison had changed her fundamentally. She was still human, but something more as well. The Viraki had tried to break her, but instead had created something they feared even more. A human who could adapt to their greatest weapon and turn it against them. When the download was complete, Jiho went to find her crew members. Hyun was still conscious in the storage room where Jiho had hidden them. "What's happening?" Hyun asked weakly. "The alarm stopped. I've secured the base," Jiho told her. "All the Viraki are unconscious." Hyun looked at her in disbelief. "All of them? How?" Jiho's eyes glowed purple as she smiled. "Let's just say their poison didn't work as planned." She checked on Tai-Woo, who was still unconscious but breathing steadily. Jiho examined the Viraki medical equipment and figured out how to use it to help her crew members. "The Viraki have advanced medical technology," she explained to Hyun as she connected a device to Tai-Woo's arm. "This should neutralize the toxin in your systems." While the medical devices worked on her crew members, Jiho explored the rest of the base. In the command center, she found what she needed: the base's long-range communication array. With her new connection to Viraki technology, Jiho was able to bypass the security systems and access the transmitter. She set it to broadcast on Earth Defense Fleet emergency frequencies. "This is Commander Jiho Kim of the EDF Horizon," she began her message. "I have taken control of a Viraki forward base at coordinate sector Cora 7. The Viraki are planning an invasion with a fleet of 12 battleships currently waiting at the edge of this system. I have obtained their full battle plans and technical data. Be advised, the Viraki have developed biological weapons specifically designed to target humans. Request immediate extraction for myself and 2 crew members." Jiho paused, then added, "Be aware that I have been changed by exposure to Viraki bioweapons. I may require special handling upon return. Kim out. She sent the message knowing it would take at least 6 hours for any Earth ships to reach their location. That was fine. The sleeping Viraki would provide no resistance, and Jiho had a base full of alien technology to study in the meantime. Consider this a diplomatic response, she said to the empty command center. She had turned their own weapon against them and neutralized an entire base without killing a single Viraki. Now she just had to prepare for what came next, both the Earth fleet's arrival and her own continuing transformation. 6 hours passed slowly in the quiet Viraki base. Jiho used this time to help her crew members recover. The alien medical technology, combined with her new understanding of the toxin, allowed her to create a treatment that neutralized the poison. In their systems, Taewoo finally woke up weak but alive. Commander, what happened? Where are the aliens? They're taking a nap, Jiho said with a small smile. How do you feel? Like I got kicked by a horse, Taewoo groaned. But I'll live. What about the Viraki? Unconscious. All of them. I used their own poison against them. They'll wake up eventually, but by then we'll be gone. Jiho had moved her crew to the command center. From there, she could monitor the whole base and watch for any sign of the Earth Defense Fleet. The screen showed the sleeping Viraki still in place where they had fallen. None had stirred yet. I don't understand, Hyun said, looking better, but still pale. How did you do all this? How did you resist the poison that nearly killed us? Jiho looked down at her hands. The purple glow was visible beneath her skin now, pulsing with her heartbeat. My body adapted to it somehow, she explained. Instead of killing me, it changed me, made me more. More what? Asked Taewoo nervously. More everything, Jiho replied. Stronger, faster, I can understand their language, connect with their technology. The toxin is a biological agent that bonds with cells. In most species, it destroys them. In me, it enhanced them. Hyun looked worried. Is it permanent? Are you still you? Jiho nodded. I'm still me, just upgraded. She smiled to reassure them. And I'm still your commander. My mission is still to get us home safely. As they talked, an alert sounded from the communication console. Jiho checked the screen and saw a ship approaching the base. Is it Earth Defense? Taewoo asked hopefully. Jiho frowned. No, it's Viraki. A small ship, probably a regular supply. Run. What do we do? Asked Hyun. If they land and find everyone unconscious, they'll alert the invasion fleet. Jiho finished. I need to stop them from sending any messages. She accessed the base's communication system and sent out a signal to the approaching ship. Base Cora 7 to supply vessel. Maintain orbit. Do not approach or land. Possible contamination situation. Await further instructions. There was a pause before the reply came. Supply vessel to base Cora 7. Understood. Maintaining orbit. What is the nature of the contamination? Jiho thought quickly. Research sample. Breach in laboratory sector. Base personnel undergoing decontamination procedures. Will advise when landing is safe. Acknowledged. Standing by. Jiho turned to her crew. That buys us some time. But they'll get suspicious if they don't hear from the base again soon. Just then, another alert sounded. This time, the signal was coming from Earth Defense Fleet frequencies. Commander Kim, this is Captain Lee of the EDF Defender. We received your distress call and are approaching your coordinates. ETA 20 minutes. Please confirm status. Relief washed over Jiho's face. This is Commander Kim. Base is secure. All Viraki personnel neutralized non-lethally. Be advised, there is a Viraki supply ship in orbit. They must not be allowed to communicate with their fleet. Understood, Commander. We'll handle the supply ship. Prepare for extraction. 20 minutes later, Jiho watched on the monitors as the EDF Defender, a powerful battlecruiser, entered orbit around the small moon where the Viraki base was located. The Earthship quickly captured the much smaller Viraki supply vessel. Soon after, a shuttle landed outside the base. Jiho opened the main doors to let in a team of Earth soldiers in environmental suits. They moved cautiously through the halls, surprised to find unconscious Viraki everywhere. Captain Lee, a tall woman with short gray hair, removed her helmet when she reached the command center. She stared at Jiho in shock, particularly at the purple glow visible in her eyes and beneath her skin. "Commander Kim, are you well?" Jiho nodded. "I'm fine, Captain. Changed, but fine. My crew needs medical attention." Captain Lee nodded to her medics who began helping Hyun and Tae-woo. "Your message said you have information about a planned Viraki invasion," the captain asked. "Yes. I've downloaded their complete battle plans and technical data." Jiho handed over the data storage device she had prepared. "Their main fleet, 12 battleships, is waiting at the edge of this system. They were planning to attack our outer colonies as a first wave." Captain Lee took the device. "This could save millions of lives. Well done, Commander." She hesitated, looking at Jiho's glowing skin. "But what happened to you?" Jiho explained, briefly about the toxin and how her body had adapted to it. "Our medical team will need to examine you," Captain Lee said. "This is unprecedented." "I understand," Jiho replied. "But first there's something else we need to discuss. The Viraki won't stay unconscious forever. When they wake up, they'll be paralyzed temporarily but otherwise unharmed." "We'll take them as prisoners," Captain Lee suggested. Jiho shook her head. "There are 50 of them, and this could be our chance for real diplomacy. I think we should leave most of them here but take their military commander and chief scientist with us." Captain Lee looked surprised. "You want to leave them?" "With a message," Jiho explained. "The Viraki attacked us because they fear human adaptability. They need to understand that we can be reasonable too. We're not looking for war." After some discussion, Captain Lee agreed. They took Commander Gon and the chief scientist as prisoners, along with key technology samples. The rest of the Viraki would remain in the base with a message recorded by Jiho. As they prepared to leave, Jiho stood in the command center one last time. She activated the base's internal communication system and recorded her message to play. When the Viraki woke up, "This is Commander Jiho Kim of the Earth Defense Fleet. By now you're awake but temporarily paralyzed. This will wear off in a few hours. We have taken Commander Gon and your chief scientist to Earth for diplomatic discussions. We have also neutralized your communication system so you cannot contact your invasion fleet. We did not kill any of you, though you tried to kill us. Remember this when you report back to your hierarchy. Humans adapt. We survive. But we also show mercy. Think carefully about whether you want us as enemies or allies." With that done, Jiho joined the others on the shuttle. As they lifted off, she looked back at the Viraki base through the viewport. The poison that had been meant to destroy her had instead made her stronger. The Viraki had created exactly what they feared most, a human with enhanced abilities beyond their understanding. 3 days later, Jiho stood beside Captain Lee in a conference room on Earth. Across the table sat representatives of the Viraki hierarchy who had arrived for emergency diplomatic talks. They had seen the data from the base and realized their invasion plans were compromised. The Viraki diplomats stared at Jiho with obvious fear, especially at the purple glow that still shone in her eyes. "Your scientists were curious about human resilience," Jiho told them, her voice calm and steady. "Now you have seen it firsthand. We don't want war with the Viraki, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." The lead Viraki diplomat responded cautiously. "The hierarchy wishes to reconsider our approach to human territories. Perhaps there is room for both our species in this sector." Jiho nodded. "I believe there is, and I hope my message was clear. Humans don't simply endure. We adapt. We turn challenges into strengths. Even your deadliest poison became something new inside me." She held up her hand, letting them see the purple glow beneath her skin. It was a reminder of what had happened, and what could happen again, if they chose. "The path of war, the choice is yours," Jiho said. "Enemy or ally, choose wisely." The Viraki diplomats looked at each other nervously. Then, in a gesture Jiho recognized from her new knowledge of their culture, they lowered their heads in respect. The poison that was meant to break her had instead broken the Viraki's will to fight. A single human's nap had changed the course of interstellar relations forever, and as the diplomatic talks began in earnest, Jiho wondered what other changes awaited her and humanity in the stars.